I have an article here from Forbes.com. The Acolyte continues a long, tragic Star Wars tradition, ruining the Jedi. It's a long article. I won't read the entire thing. I will link in the description box. You can read it for yourself, though. But it starts, remember when the Jedi were cool? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. It's been such a very, very long time. Long before Disney took over Lucasfilm and the Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Willow IP. I've had this thought running through my head lately. You can have too much of a good thing. It's the whole less is more notion, and it applies in a very big way, not just to Star Wars, but a lot to our beloved genre fiction. For example, let's take a look at Galadriel. On the left, we have young Galadriel from the Rings of Power, played by Morfydd Clark, bedecked in heavy plate armor and wearing a fancy elven blade in her back. On the right, we have Kate Blanchett's Elven Queen from Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. In the Lord of the Rings movie, Galadriel is presented as faithful to the source material as humanly possible. She's beautiful, ethereal, and mysterious. She's at once a source of courage for the Fellowship, and somewhat terrifying when she meets with Frodo by her mirror. She is not in very many scenes and doesn't have very many lines, though she gets to do the intro narration, but her presence in the film looms large. You do not forget her. In the Rings of Power, Galadriel is transformed into the chief protagonist, and in doing so is much diminished. She's a warrior here, the general of the northern armies, because elves are big on military titles, and rather than mysterious and terrifying, she's petulant and boastful. She's robbed of her power, so much of which came from how little we truly understand her in the books or films. She's like an angel or a demigod, removed from conflict. Apart from it, though, certainly still consequential in the bigger scheme. By giving us so much Galadriel, and such a poorly written version to be sure, we dilute the very things that made her such a memorable and crucial part of the Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth. She becomes just another elven warrior on a quest. This was the origin story of a human queen. I could see maybe why it would work. But Galadriel in Lord of the Rings, or in Rings of Power, has not had her origin by any stretch of the imagination. She's already thousands of years old at this point, every bit a powerful elder queen of the elves, not some brash, impulsive idiot leaping off ships in the middle of the ocean. you know, funny because it's true. Anyway, less Galadriel was more Galadriel, and the same applies to the Jedi. All of which brings me to something that's been bothering me since the prequel films. More Jedi we've given on screen, the less cool they've become, or less awesome they've become. It's not to say that young Obi-Wan wasn't cool, whether I didn't enjoy Darth Maul. The same rule also applies to the Sith, but as more movies have come out and more shows like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka arrive only to fall flat, the Jedi have just gotten less and less compelling. I didn't hate old and bitter Luke Skywalker from the sequels. I did, but whatever. But the movies failed to really give him a worthwhile story. He didn't earn the rush redemption arc he was given. Face it, Luke's story was over in Return of the Jedi, and maybe so was the story of the Jedi. I wouldn't, just to stop right there, I wouldn't say the story of the Jedi should have ended with the Return of the Jedi. I mean, I get what he's saying. I completely understand. I think I think he's pretty accurate. He's more right than he's wrong on this. It's not a thing about, you know, it's not just showing or how many shows or whatever they've done about the Jedi. It's that they've depowered them. They've had them act like idiots. They've they've done all this kind of crazy stuff, and then plus on top of that, you're also they're poorly written. You know, can't I don't want to make too many um, claims about the acting and stuff because you never know. Because a lot of actors struggle trying to play a Jedi character or trying to play a robotic style character, an emotionless character. Really good actors have struggled with that, and it's one of those things that it's not an easy thing to do by any means. Anyway, going back to the article real quick, and then I'll wrap this up. Writing over at IGN, Scott Kohler has a very good piece about how the Acolytes Jedi went out like punks in the fifth episode. What this says about the Jedi in modern Star Wars. He notes that as the franchise has evolved, removing the mystery of the Jedi has also hollowed the power of the legendary words from a storytelling and dramatic standpoint. Not everyone can be Luke Skywalker after all. This is on stark display in the Acolyte's fifth episode, when 5 fully trained Jedi are taken out in just a few seconds by the Master, whereas the Padawan Jackie Lon holds her own for far longer, though she eventually snuffs it as well. We don't know exactly how Jedi 1 brought the moisture farm, as he's already lying in the jungle dead as the episode starts. Jedi number 2, and then, gets the Master's saber right in the back. Jedi 3 is sliced across his belly. Jedi 4 is impaled by the Master's lightsaber. Then for a finishing move, Jedi 5, where the Master force pulls Jedi 5 onto his blade, while it is still sticking out of number 4's back, before swinging for what is presumably a double decapitation just off screen. Shortly thereafter, he triple impales the Padawan Jeki and breaks Yord's neck, killing them both as well. Yeah, it's one of those classic things where it's like, did that go out like punks? Sure. I guess that's spoilers for the Acolyte if you've been watching or whatever. But if you're watching that and stuff, you probably, or if you're seeing this video for, somehow, you've probably already seen the episode. So, okay. But anyway, the article continues on and on and on and on. It's a good article. I would recommend reading it. I'm not going to go through it. Like I said, I will link it in the description box. You can read it for yourself. Like I said, I do agree with his overall point that the more you show of something, uh, especially if it's not well written or not as well written as previous stuff, you absolutely run the risk of demystifying, decooling, however you want to make it, lowering the cool factor, the cool quotient of these characters. It's a very real thing, absolutely. But I mean, also at the same time, businesses are going to try to put out as much as they could, or as much as they can. I think the bigger problem, more than showing the Jedi too much, is just having like just poorly written. I mean, just period. Now, is it? Now, I think it's more quality than it is the quantity of showing the Jedi. I'm sure other people might disagree and say, well, showing the Jedi too much is a problem, no matter how well they're written. And that's fine. We can agree to disagree on that stuff. But anyway, I'm starting to ramble. Like I said, I'll link this in the description box. You can read it for yourself. I would recommend reading this, like I said. But anyway, thank you very much.